Welcome back to the JavaScript and HTML5 Canvas Tag Training Series. In this video, we will cover line drawing to accomplish a real-world task. Did I say that right? Real-world task. Don't ruin it for people. Don't put the homework assignment completed code into the comment area at YouTube. And just so you guys have a good visual reference in your mind, I'm going to show the logic of drawing custom shapes, custom filled shapes using lines that we can plot. I'm going to show the logic first and give you a good visual in your mind before we get into the code so you really grasp what's going on. So here I'm in Fireworks and I'm just going to grab my pen tool. And these are the four methods that we're going to be using. These are line methods. We're going to be using these within this tutorial. And we use begin path to start a new path. We use move to plot the first point of that path. So we plot an X and Y coordinate on our canvas to start that path. So to simulate that, I'm going to click here with my pen tool. Then I use the line to method and give it an X and Y coordinate to plot my next line point. So let's say I put it right here. Then I use line to once again to put a point and a line drawn here. Then I use line to once again to put a line here. Then I can use line to once again to put a line here. And you're just plotting out the points as you go. Now when you want to fill that shape, you don't really have to draw the last line in to meet these 2 points together. To illustrate what would happen when you use the fill method down here, and then that's what you get. After you start with move to, you use line to plot out your lines of your shape, and then once you get to the last line, you don't really have to close the shape off or anything. You just use fill, and that will close the shape off for you. Okay, now that you understand what we're going to be doing and you got a good visual in your mind, let's translate all of this logic into code. Okay, now let's discuss your assignment. You're going to have to draw the World of WebCraft logo by plotting lines and filled shapes into your canvas tag. Now I'm going to be teaching you how to get this far, but I want you on your own to get this far. Okay, we're continuing in the same file we left off with in part 1 of this series. The only thing I did different was I added the doc type tag. That way it runs in Internet Explorer as well, i.e. 9. Right where it says begin drawing here is where we had a rectangle that we drew in yesterday, just as an example. So now let's start plotting these lines. First, I'm going to use the begin path method on the CTX object. Now I'm going to plot my first point of my custom shape. So I use the move to method and I set an X coordinate of 100 and a Y coordinate of 50. So my first point will be plotted at 100x, 50y. Now I'm going to use the line to method in order to create my first line by plotting my second point, which is going to be at 130x and 100y. Now we're going to use line to again to start off where that last line ended, and we're going to make this one have an x coordinate of 70 and a y coordinate of 100. Now since we're not signifying or claiming a stroke for this path, you won't see anything if you run this right now until you put in the fill method. Now if I was to save this file and run it in Chrome, I see a nice triangle there. That's the beginning of the logo. Now where we set the fill, let's go down a couple of lines and I'm going to begin a new path, and I'm going to use move to and line to again to make another shape. And you can see that this shape is using line to method more because it has more points than just 3 points. This shape is going to have 5 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then it fills itself. And all I did was I set my coordinates correctly to make it create this. I'm going to run it in Chrome. You see? So you can plot out any shapes that you need using pixel perfect placement on all of your plotted points for your line. So let me put in some code comments here for you. This one says draw filled shape 1, the center triangle of logo. This comment says draw filled shape 2, the left flap of the logo. And here, underneath those two, I'm going to put another comment in that says your homework is to draw filled shape number 3 here. It's the right flap of the logo, and that will complete the shape of the worldofwebcraft.com logo. And you doing that, having to plot out these points and fill your shape, will give you a nice little hands-on exercise, just so you get good with plotting out your lines. Now you see where I put in ctx.fill? What if I was to change that to stroke? I use the stroke method instead of the fill method. Let's run that. You see what happens? It made my triangle, but only with a stroke. And that really lets you see that there was only 2 lines drawn even though we plotted out 3 points. But the fact that we used the fill method instead of stroke, what it did was it just closed our shape and filled it in, where we didn't have to draw a last line. But if you want to show that last line and you want to have only a stroke, what you can do is use the ctx.closePath method. Now let's run it. So you can see what that does. That closed my path for me, and it plotted all 3 lines like I wanted. Okay, so now you know how to draw your lines, to move them to any coordinates, and plot out each line to where it's going to lay. You know how to fill them, and we just demonstrated how to only make it a stroke if you want it to be a stroke or outline. Okay, so now it is on you to make me proud and complete this very basic assignment. Well, all you have to do is make the right side flap of that World of WebCraft logo. And I want to throw this in just so I know somebody's going to ask, but we covered it in yesterday's tutorial, part 1 of this series, where we showed you how to color the rectangle that we created. You can use that same method here. Right before you run CTX fill, just put a fill style using RGBA like we did yesterday. Red, green, blue, and alpha. And those are the parameters. So if I run this now, you'll see that everything would change to, I think that's green. Yes, so that's how you can color things. Let's say you wanted the other one to be blue. Right before you fill it, just assign it with, let's make it red. So let's make this one 200. Then run that. You see? What happens if I make all 3 of those 0? Let's run that. It is black again. So I'll just leave those lines in. You can make them any color you want. I'll leave them black. There you go. Okay, now make me proud and draw this logo, buddy. That's your homework assignment, and if you can't do it, you fail, son.